Assalamu alaikum. We're back.
Walaikum salam.
Yeah, we're back with our brother Rashid, and just kind of a recap that he gave a very fascinating story about a little bit about his early life and his struggles with cultural struggles and trying to understand, his relationship with God and who God was and so forth, and the racial aspects related to that, and about his eventual arrival into the military. Where in the military he got some more, I guess, religious enlightenment, and to eventually to the point where he got what we consider the ultimate enlightenment, where alhamdulillah he became Muslim, and then his path to continue his growth within Islam, and where he eventually found his wife, his first wife, and then who she also became Muslim, and then now he is toward the end of his military career, where he has considered, I guess, a path towards respiratory therapy, and which is his current direction. So, I'm going to take it from there, brother.
اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, so again, after seeing that young girl that I mentioned before, take a good breath after simple breathing treatment, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I had no idea what it was called. So I kind of asked around, and I found out it's called a respiratory therapist. And we had one, that job description in the Army. So I was on my final year of my first 4-year enlistment, and I spoke with the re-enlistment officer and sergeant, and he said, "Yeah, I can get you in school. You'll be going back to Sam Houston to become a respiratory therapist." I said, "Yeah, let's do it." So I re-enlisted for another 4 years, which would have made 8 years total, obviously, with the promise that I would go to school nearly immediately, because as a combat medic, I couldn't make sergeant. And I was struggling. I was only making like maybe $1,400 a month. I was married, children, living off post, paying rent, not enough money to really live. And I thought making sergeant would boost my income, and it would definitely make me, I could live on base, which would be rent-free. So that was another incentive. So I re-enlisted for the 4 years with the promise that I would be going to school nearly immediately, becoming a respiratory therapist. So several months in, still no paperwork to go to school. 1 year in, no paperwork to go to school. So I reached back out to the sergeant, and I said, "Hey man, what's up? You said I'll be going to school." He said, "Oh man, I'm having difficulties getting you in school. Give me 1 more year." I said, "Hey, Sarge, I can't give you another year, man. I'm struggling out here. No money, I can't do it." So I knew at that time President Clinton was giving people the option to get out early.
Okay.
So I took the early out option, went to college. So I think the question is, how does Islam come into a career change or life change like that? Obviously, the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the one who provides. And we trust that His provisions are there. We just have to make sure that we have the right intention. We have to make sure that we have the right pathway of following the sunnah or the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that could be difficult because you're going into a place that you're maybe not familiar with. You're going into a college environment. You're going to be in a mixed crowd of people. And you need to know who you are as a human, especially as a man. You need to know who you are as a man and be able to guard yourself in those environments that maybe you weren't exposed to before, where you have free reign. You're away from your parents if you're young, going to college. You're a long way from your parents. You don't have that watchful eye of your father or your mother to pay attention to you, and you're around women for the first time in an open, free environment. So be very, very careful of that. Um, I'm not going to speak on whether you should go or you shouldn't go, um, but be very careful if you go. I went to college, struggled through school. Again, I had children and mouths to feed, so I worked several jobs. I was in a small town. There was no masjid. Pick a school where you have Muslims, a lot of Muslims around. Make sure that's a priority to you, I would say. And I'm talking about the mistakes I made. I didn't go to a school that had a lot of Muslims around, and I suffered and I struggled because of it. I graduated.
Well, why did you struggle? What was the struggles that you?
Well, again, you're back to self-study, and you're trying to study Islam and keep it relevant, and you're trying to study your career choice, which can be overwhelming, and you're trying to work. So there's a lot to ask of yourself, a lot of time constraints, a lot of demands, and I was married. So I had family, I had school, I had work, and I had Islam. Something is gonna have to take a back burner, and unfortunately, oftentimes it can be your study of your deen. So that was where I struggled, and that's where I took a step back from what I had in Maryland to what I had in Parsons, Kansas, where I went to school. It was a big setback. But alhamdulillah, I would advise my children and anyone else that you make those choices wisely. If you're going to go to school, pick a school where there's an abundance of Muslims, where there's a large Islamic Salafi community, and stay there and be close to them and be close to good brothers. If you happen to be a sister listening, be close to good sisters that'll keep reminders for you, because it's going to be very challenging in school. Be very challenging in school. So I finished school, alhamdulillah, and my first job was at a big hospital in Wichita, Kansas, trauma center, big place. And what were my struggles there? More of the same. Now I'm at a hospital. I'm a new face. My Islam had struggled, and now you put a person in a big facility where, as a man, where maybe on a whole shift you're the only man, and there's a lot of women. So the challenges for a Muslim man in that environment, in that healthcare environment, can be very, very difficult, because there's a shaitan is whispering all day, every day. And if your deen is weak, that's probably not the environment you want to be in as a young man. SubhanAllah, even as an old man, you have to be on your guard, on your toes. And again, find the Muslims. Find the Muslims at work. Find the Muslims on your shift. Find the Muslims in your department or other departments, and be close to them and stay near them, and avoid seatings in the environment where you're the only Muslim there. It could be very difficult in a hospital setting. So I guess I would say, man, that would be the advice I have, and the challenges I face, even today as a Muslim. But the other side of it is, as you're watching what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does, you're reading your Quran, you're studying your religion, and you're watching those things, you're starting to see that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is working on this person you're taking care of. You see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described in his book in this healthcare situation. And it could be very humbling. It could be very amazing. You learn about your systems, your respiratory system, your circulatory system, embryology. And you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about this stuff in the Quran 1400 years ago. And I would say one of the biggest benefits for me as a Muslim is understanding the qadr of Allah, what He has willed, what He has predetermined. So I understand that when I'm working on a patient and that patient is closer to death than they are to life, it's sad to see another human go, but I understand that's what's written. And I understand that we do everything we can, and I'm able to sleep at night knowing that I did everything I could, and it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had written that this was the time for this person to go. So alhamdulillah, Islam allows me the ability to maintain a clearer focus.
Yeah, I think for a person who doesn't work in the medical field, but everyone may in some point in their life need medical attention, it's nice to know as a Muslim that you have a doctor, respiratory therapist, a nurse, radiologist, whatever you may need, that a person who's Muslim who understands your situation, who understands your religion, and that can hopefully respond accordingly. So I think it's very admirable that we have professionals like yourself that work in those challenging environments that can attend to be mindful of Muslim culture. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, alhamdulillah. That's very nice.
Yeah, oftentimes you're the only Muslim, so you get a chance. The family has told the nursing staff or whatever the expectation, and then you, as a Muslim, you can elaborate on the questions that the nurse may have about what's culturally appropriate, or what's religiously appropriate. Why can only women go into this room, for instance? And I've been able to answer those questions for the non-Muslim staff, and they get a higher understanding of that situation for that family. Yeah, alhamdulillah.